feel with the camera on you? Are you comfortable?
Yeah, I don't mind.
Okay, great.
I wouldn't have paid someone to film me if I didn't like the camera. That would have been a bad idea. So, hopefully something good comes out of this. Morning! Oh, God. And we're in. That's one of the cool things about, running your own company, you just get to make really interesting decisions whenever you feel that that's the best thing to do. You don't have the worry or the concern of somebody else just telling you what to do or how to do it. But that also sometimes means you get things wrong and it can be expensive. But it's great, it's good fun. That's kind of one of the things that I like the best. And that's the kind of really exciting thing about being able to make your own decisions, and ultimately I don't have to ask anyone if, I can take this client for lunch. I don't need to ask anyone if this is the best approach to use for, this particular piece of marketing. Or it's just nice to be able to really help, just to do the things that you want to do. Because what's the heck of point of being on Earth if you're not able to do some cool stuff? So if you were to ask me, what are the favorite, what's like my favorite thing about being a business owner? I would probably say it's the ability to make things happen. And that probably sounds a little bit cliche, but I mean, look at this now. I'm driving the car that I always wanted to drive, with a man from Greece filming me in my car, and we're making video content for people that now follow us and watch everything that we're doing. Whereas, literally 2 years ago, I was a student with £5 to rub together, if I was lucky, with just a pipe dream of, one day I'll have my own company and everything will be, doing okay. So, yeah, it takes a hell of a lot of work. I don't think I've slept in in the last 2 years, but I wouldn't change it for the world. It's awesome. Because that's the kind of thing, in another year's time, who knows where I'll be. We could be hopefully bigger, hopefully better, but equally, I might have guffed some things up and I might end up living back at home with mum. I like the way that the challenge of business is kind of completely, unfaltering. You never kind of stop. It's this race that never has an ending. And that's just super exciting. Because, that's what life's about, kind of just making things better. Who would have thought that, from some crazy idea to make a money-making machine in my bedroom all that time ago, that now I'd be able to be doing what I'm doing now. And, people often think that I'm some type of crazy ability guy, or I've got some kind of superpower skills, or, it's easy for you because you're good at business, or you're this. I'm just a normal guy. I work hard and I try to learn everything I can, but fundamentally there's nothing different to me than there is between anybody else that wants to do this. It's just hard work and finding something that you love, and working smart. So, you can work every hour God sends, but sometimes it's just not going to cut it unless you kind of put that effort in a very constructive manner. And that's kind of where, I'd like to think I've been able to make a big play, is the ability to be able to realise the position I'm in. Gary Vee always talks about self-awareness as being one of his greatest assets. And I think that's quite important. I kind of wouldn't ever want to live a life of regret. And as a young guy that, was kind of young, single, didn't really have any commitments, wasn't, didn't have, not the burden of a family, that would be a bit mean to say, but ultimately I didn't have the responsibilities of a wife and a mortgage and children that relied on me. I made very conscious decisions in my life to make sure I was in, those were things that came later, so that I'd have a period of time now where it doesn't matter if I screw things up. It doesn't matter if I end up falling flat on my face, because the worst that can happen is, I get negatively affected, and that's okay. I don't have a problem with that. It's when other people get negatively affected that obviously the risk is much higher, and this is why it can be much more difficult for people that are a little bit more established in life to be able to change their lifestyle to create opportunities where there might not be any, or there certainly wasn't any previously. So, I was very aware that I had this kind of short time window to kind of take a swing, because what's the worst that can happen? What is the worst that can happen? I just end up going and using my degree, which I worked really hard for, to be able to go and get a normal, a normal job, whatever that is these days. So it's just exciting to be able to kind of control your own life and forge your own destiny, and it sounds, all very kind of pie in the sky, but you really can kind of make things happen. I mean, in 2 years now, I've been able to, I've gone from a little company, a little tiny shack in my bedroom, to, having a little premises somewhere that I never thought I could afford at the time. And then, we moved to another office, and then took on one team member and another team member, and very, very quickly, everything helps and it rolls forward. And, now I've been keynote speaking on stage in the crypto world next to, some of the CEOs of some of the biggest crypto companies out there. And it's just nice to be able to work alongside people that, are equally as passionate about this sector as I am, and to really kind of add some cool value to people, because it's all just about helping people, Sometimes people just really overcomplicate business. Business is nothing more complex than trust. If you trust someone and you need or believe you need what they're offering, then it's a very simple solution. Sometimes people get caught up in a million other variables that, certainly exist, but ultimately people buy things from people that they trust and they like, and this whole kind of, this big old hangover of being this nasty business person that needs to step on people's heads to get to places, it's crazy. Working together is the best way to go. Working smart is the best way to go. Helping people out when you can is the best way to go. Sometimes people get a little bit worn down. Small business owners can be very kind of deflated and downbeat about, running a business. It can be super, super tough. There's so many difficulties that come with running a business. The stresses and the taxes and the staff and the rents and the people wanting the money back and the lawyers and solicitors and accountants, and it all just kind of gets a little bit stressful. And all those things exist, and it's very, very difficult. The problems I have on a day-to-day business now, a year ago honestly would have crushed me. But you just kind of stretch as a person. It's a little bit like going to the gym. You're able to kind of just stretch your business skill, and things that you couldn't lift before you now can, weights that you can't carry before you can. And it's that whole kind of like making yourself a better person. You've probably, sat here listening, and you probably think, well, yeah, I've been to the gym. You've probably maybe tried to lose weight, or maybe put on a bit of muscle, or, some type of physical fitness challenge that you've set yourself. And even if you've just done a tiny little bit, you see results. And that can be very kind of liberating to see things moving forward. And you get very excited about it. Now, typically, as we all do, 5 minutes later, we're back on the cakes, and the treadmill's long gone. But ultimately, you know, you can kind of take those little kind of wins, the little motivations that you get, and business is a little bit, you know, similar. You kind of think, oh, there's no way in hell I could ever run 5K, and then you just do, you know, 500 meters and a mile and 2 miles, and before you know it, you can run 5K and it's not too much of a problem. It's the same in business. You just kind of think, you know, how the hell am I ever going to sell to my first customer? You know, how the hell am I ever going to invoice someone for £10,000? You know, how the hell am I ever going to invoice someone for £50,000? Or, you know, how the heck am I going to manage a team or run an office? Or, and all these little things, you know, in isolation can be really big, scary questions. But, you know, it's just step by step, day by day. And I certainly don't have all the answers, and it's all very new to me. And I'm just kind of in the middle of it right now. It's a whole new thing, and every single day I'm learning things I didn't know before. But it's ridiculously exciting. It can be tough to break away from that mindset of this is the way we've always done things, that's the way it's got to be. You know, how the heck, Josh, can I set up a business? I don't know what I'm doing. You know, I've got a job, I've got kids, I've got families, I've got responsibilities. Well, that's great. You know, you don't have to just go into work tomorrow and quit your job and say, hey, I'm setting up a business, because for a lot of people that'd be a bad idea. But, you know, ultimately, you know, what do you do for the hours when you go home? You know, if you're complaining that you don't have enough money, or you're sick of your job, or you want to get into business, and you can also spend an hour talking to your friend about, you know, the latest Game of Thrones series, or you can spend 10 hours describing every single TV series and Netflix thing that you've seen for the past 6 months. Imagine if you just spent all those hours in front of the TV doing something a bit more, well, financially rewarding. You know, and that's not to say that you don't need those things, and breaks are great, and everyone needs some downtime, but when people kind of have a 9-to-5 job, they have a 9-to-5 mentality. I mean, just to put it in perspective, everyone has different capabilities and different things, but I mean, I don't think I've had a single day off now, work-wise, for getting on to, you know, 32, 33 days. And I might try and get an afternoon off every bit of time, because it's, you know, you need to kind of reset the brain. And of course, I'm not working every hour every day, because that would be mental, but you know, 14, 15, 16-hour days is very easy to do once you've done it for, you know, 6 months straight. So there's so many hours in the day to achieve so many different things. But people always have this weird illusion, and it always baffles me, that people think having a job is secure. So if you think about it, if you guys maybe watching this now have a job, and you may be thinking about, you know, doing your own business or getting involved in something a bit different, how many people does it take for you to lose your job? How many people, or how many single people's decisions does it take for you to not have a job tomorrow? Most likely, probably one single person's decision. Maybe a senior manager, or a director, or a board member, or there's someone above you that can fundamentally change the way the business is done, and without any input from you whatsoever, someone clicks the fingers and your position effectively no longer exists. So your secure job is ultimately down to the whim of one single person in a lot of instances. Now, I, for one, if it's going to be down to a single person, I'd rather that be me. And two, as an entrepreneur, as someone that is able to, you know, do different things and kind of pivot around different situations, you can have multiple streams of income and use your skills in different ways, so that if one person over here turns that income off, then you're able to still earn income over here. And it takes a whole myriad of factors for you to kind of get completely wiped out, which is much less risky than having one single person take away your job as an employee. So I always find that concept really strange, that people think that having a job is secure. You know, nothing is secure. You know, we don't have, you know, in the 1960s, 70s, you know, people did have jobs for life. That was a thing. You know, it's 2019, you know, people now are in careers and have multiple careers through their adulthood, you know, through all sorts of things changing. So nothing is the same way it used to be. And I think we need to adapt as people to be able to embrace that. And this whole illusion of security, I think, is populated and propagated in probably ways which are a bit of a bizarre narrative and something which I don't think is helpful for people. So ultimately, I think people need to be a little bit more self-reliant and kind of upskill themselves to be more comfortable with these things. And I just love what I do, and I feel so blessed to be able to have, worked hard to be able to have the foresight to be able to create this little window of opportunity. And it's just a very, very exciting time. And if I can kind of help, my customers and the clients and the partners that we work with, if we can help them do things a little bit better with their resources and help them get involved in the whole crypto world as we do, then, if we can make some money and they can make some money and everything can kind of help grow the ecosystem around crypto and blockchain, I mean, what an awesome thing to be able to do. So don't, buy into the negative stuff. Business is super exciting, and it's, it's not for everyone. It's a tough thing, but for those of you that kind of have that desire, you don't have to be, business can sometimes feel like a Goliath, but it only takes a David to kind of take them down. Sometimes you don't need to be the biggest, strongest, baddest, most well-resourced thing. And anyone can do that, and it's a really exciting thing to be able to exist. Sometimes we get on this one-track mind. The systems which we have in the UK, in America, in the West. Fundamentally, it's go to school, get a good job, work really hard, get good grades. So we have this thing like getting a good job will be the be-all and end-all to life, but actually that's just not always the case, because how many times have we heard of our friends in good jobs not having jobs anymore? And it's one thing that people always say. They're like, "Oh, Josh, how do you do it? I'd love to have my own business, but it's so risky. What if you just don't make any money? Or what if the business fails?" And they're perfectly reasonable risks and something to think about. So you don't always need to worry about thinking the same way other people do. It's ultimately that famous quote from Einstein, if you do what you always got, you're going to get what you always got. You need to mix the input of your results if you want to change the output. So I didn't think it was possible. I was just a normal, regular dude who always wanted to get into business. I knew I was going to do it. I knew that I'd be able to do it, and I'd worked hard to kind of nurture some of the skills and the work ethic to be able to apply myself. But ultimately, I'm just learning the way everyone does. I might be able to help people that are, starting and growing and trying to get the first 100,000, £500,000, £1 million businesses. Equally now I look to the advice of people that have got the 20, 30, 40 million pound businesses, because it changes as you move forward, and everything that I'm saying now, inevitably in 3 years' time, I wish I could listen to myself and hopefully I'd have some better things to say. But that's the truth of business. No one's perfect. No one knows every answer. People get things wrong. But it's just a case of learning and knowledge and, moving forward, and that excitement for what you're able to achieve. And it's possible for anyone to do. And that's kind of what I just kind of want to convey to a lot of people watching this, because sometimes we can get really bogged down. But it's just an exciting world. I mean, we've got roads and cars and internet, and I mean, we've just got the most amazing, technology on our doorstep. And, you only have to look back at, 50 years in this country, 100 years in this country, or even other countries around the world today that aren't as fortunate as we are. It's just crazy to me. Like, I'm driving a car that has a V10 engine. Like, how the hell does that even made? The engineers at BMW spent years designing this thing and engineering this thing, and it's an absolute masterpiece of innovation from, you know, the silks that have been produced and the leathers and the engine and the management systems. And I mean, how do humans even put a car together? It's just mental. But we do. You know, humans are awesome, and we find ways to make things work, and it's just really, really exciting. And I think sometimes that there's so much, you know, negative media and negative press and so many kind of, oh, woe is the world with this or this or this, and politics, and the world's not the way we want it to be. You know, well, stop complaining about it and make something happen. It's just not that difficult. Everyone has got something to offer the world. And if you actually put the time in to make that happen, then you'll be surprised how much better the world becomes very quickly. Now I'm in a position where I can talk to you as someone who's got a 7-digit business in 18 months of starting, after literally having no money after university. We've never borrowed a penny. I've never got mummy's and daddy's money. It's literally just from one thing that led to the second thing, to the third thing, to the fourth thing, and you know, putting in every hour God sent along the way to make my, you know, what I wanted happen. Little nuggets of goodness here for you, and that's been it.